shit!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So today we're going to change the brake shoes on the Royal Enfield because of what happened the other day. I'm also going to have to bend the rear brake lever. You can see it's kind of sticking out a bit further and it's kind of off kilter. A lot of little damage happened, and looking at the bike, what I can actually see is this frame mount here where the brake lever shaft sits on is actually bent. So I'm going to get in under there and bend that back, and hopefully everything will be okay. Now the other thing that happened is because the brakes locked up and the lever pulled down really hard, like extremely hard, this spring is stretched. But what also happened, which is unfortunate, is that the rear brake light switch has been damaged now. So I'm going to see if I can remove this and pull it apart and fix it. If not, I'm going to have to order a new one. So step one, we've taken the nut out and taken the axle out. Once you take the axle out, you can take the rear wheel off, and the brake drum and chain basically stay in the same spot. So next thing I'm going to do is put some gloves on, and we're going to undo the bolts, which are on this side over here. And the things that have to be undone is this large bolt here, this large nut here, and this little nut here, which are holding this entire assembly on. And don't forget, we also have to undo that nut right there. Once we undo those, we'll be able to slide this whole entire assembly off, get it up onto the workbench, remove the brake shoes, replace them with brand new ones, and then reassemble everything in reverse order. Now the thing to remember when you're putting the new brake shoes on, when you put this nut back on, do not do that until you've put the rear wheel back on, because then you can spin the rear wheel, turn this nut until the brakes start binding, and then back them off a turn. Alrighty folks, well I got the brake shoe assembly off. Now the good news is the brake shoes still have quite a fair bit of meat on them. In fact, it doesn't look like they're worn out much at all. However, the bad news is what's actually happened is that the reason the brakes locked up is there's actually zero lubrication here on this cam. That, let me see if I can do this one-handed. When you apply the brakes and it pulls this lever, I don't know if I can, I don't want to get much, it's not going to happen, sorry guys, one-handed. So this cam, when you pull the brake, when you push down on the brake pedal, this lever goes this way, which turns this. And the cam, here we go, opens and closes like that, which pushes the brake shoes apart and pulls them back together via this spring. What's happened is there is zero lubrication on here. Yet again, another problem that I found based on the previous owner's workshop that he took it to. I'm not going to name names, but it seems like every time I work on a bike that's been purchased from that place or serviced from that place, there's always a lot of little tiny things that are wrong. I recently replaced the clutch in another bike of mine, and it turned out that the clutch plates that were in the bike were actually incorrect. So I doubt anything this person does. But anyway, I'm going to put the new brake shoes away and save them for another day. I'm going to pull this apart and try to fix this. What's also happened because of the lockup, and you can see this, see the bearing surface down here. Notice how it's not quite straight. Yeah, and notice this bolt sticking out of the housing. It's not straight either. So I'm going to pull this apart, but I'm actually thinking that maybe this housing is bent as well because of this small fingernail amount of grease that should have been applied here, which wasn't. and locked up the brake. So probably what's happened is I've pressed the brake lever and it's stuck. And I can probably try to make it stick. If I... no, can't do it one-handed, sorry fellas. But if I pull this brake lever hard enough down an inch or two, this will lock up. So that's the cause of the problem. And look at the amount of damage it's caused. This is going to be hundreds of dollars worth of repairs instead of just replacing the brake shoes and hoping for the best. So it looks like a new housing. I'm going to see if I can just order a whole new assembly. Look, if that's the case, I'm just going to replace the whole lot. Alrighty, so I've taken the nut off this bolt here, this stud, thinking that perhaps I could maybe pull it out. Unfortunately, if we look at this, you can kind of see how bent it is. So not only is the housing bent, if you look on the left hand side here, but you can also see this stud going in, and then if you look at this bearing point here where the brake shoes sit on, look at how bent that is. So unfortunately it's caused a lot of damage, and all because, look at this, it's just dry, it's just dirty. There's not a speck of grease on there, it's just dirt. And if only this pivot point here was lubricated. It's just one of those things. Maybe I should have done it myself, but you know, when you purchase a motorcycle and it's come from a dealer, you don't really and you have a full service history with the bike as well, you don't really doubt these things. When I first got the bike, the oil level was too high and spitting out of the air filter housing. The air filter was put on the wrong way. The spark plug heat range was way too low. The chain and sprockets were said to be replaced, but they were so loose, so dry, and so rusted. The handlebars, aftermarket handlebars, were put on the bike, and they were binding against the petrol tank, which scratched and dented it. 6, the indicators that were put on, the aftermarket indicators, rather than rewiring them in, they just spliced them and ran them underneath the rear mudguard, which made the loom thicker and rubbed against the tyre. That caused the wiring loom to basically be chewed out, and that's why I've replaced the aftermarket indicators with brand new ones, and OEM of course. And I ended up making my own wiring loom that went under the mudguard, which I might as well show you now. Don't know if you can see it, might be a bit dark in here, but got the new wiring loom running under here, and yeah, not a mark on it, likely because it was put in correctly instead of being fudged around by some cowboy dealers who don't know how to do their job properly. Now I'm looking at, while I'm here, I'm looking at the swing arm, and this part down here, now ignore the scratches, unfortunately I couldn't avoid that. I tried my best to, but the washer, this bent washer, was so damaged from the force that it was actually stuck on the nut, and I couldn't get the rear brake assembly off unless I forced it and pried it off. But you can actually see, if I hold it this way, let me try to, you can see how that washer is damaged and bent. It's not straight anymore, and that was caused by the force of the brakes locking up. So the swing arm, it's hard to, let me see if we can see this. It's hard to see maybe in the camera, but it's actually curving on this bottom part here. This top part appears to be straight, but this part here is kind of bowed like a banana now. So more damage yet again, sadly. Alright, so I decided to take the exhaust off. What I did was I undid this bolt just here and pulled this brake lever off the shaft that's coming off the chassis. What I found was the shaft itself was actually bent, so I was able to bend that back. It's not assembled now, but it's sitting pretty good now, so this pad here that hits the frame. See this Allen key? That adjusts how high or low the brake lever sits. So it's actually lined up again, so that's good. All this is straight, and even this lever here is now in line with the rest of the chassis. I don't know what I'm going to do about the swing arm just yet. I may sort of get a lever on here and kind of bend it. One thing I was going to show you is this. So I was working on the frame of this brake shoe mechanism, this assembly, and I've started to clean it up. It's not done yet. Undid these nuts. These were on too tight. There's supposed to be a little bit of free play with these two nuts, so that when you actually use this, it kind of self-centers itself. So these were on too tight. Again, another fault. I haven't even cleaned this up yet, and you can see how dry that is. I'm starting to bend this back to see if I can get it working. But I wanted to show you this. I said I was going to keep the brake shoes, but can you see why I wouldn't? It's cracked the brake shoe. You can see how badly this thing locked up and caught, that it actually has cracked the brake shoe. So these are now garbage. All right, folks, so slight detour. What I'm going to do, I know I changed the front pads. I didn't really show you too much of that, but I'm going to change the disc as well, because it has been pulsing and it's slightly warped. The other thing is that it is down to the minimum thickness, which is down here. Minimum thickness 4.2 millimeters. So I ordered a new one of those, just went and picked it up, and we're just going to replace it. Now what I did was I undid the Allen bolts that were on here, and I did that on the motorcycle. What they are a 6mm Allen bolt. Here they are. They do require Loctite, so you just put a little drop of red Loctite. That's what was on here already, and you can see a little bit of red residue there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and just give everything a bit of a wipe. I'll put my gloves back on, pop this disc off, pop the new one on, line it up in the exact same spot, and then we'll tighten everything down. Now what I'll do is I'll nip all the Allen bolts up, pop it back on the motorcycle, put the brake on and everything, and you can use the front brake lever to help lock the wheel in place and torque these to spec. So I'm going to go ahead and find the actual torque spec for these, and I'll line that up and show you what it looks like next. And there we have it, folks. New disc on the bike. I've given it a bit of a scrub just to get any oil off it or anything like that. I'm not going to test ride it yet, because I'm going to do the rear now. New brake pads are in, torque to spec. I'll post it up, the torque specs up here somewhere, probably here. And let's keep going. I'm going to go with the rear. Alrighty, well I got the new plate on. So basically I've just assembled everything underneath. Now you'll notice the new plate looks very different to the old plate, and it is. So I'm hoping when I put this in, everything still lines up okay. I have a funny suspicion it's not going to. The self-centering mechanism in here doesn't exist on this plate. Everything's already apparently self-centered. Now, it's Royal Enfield, so who knows what that means. But everything did fit. Now I'm going to put it onto the motorcycle and hope that the chain lines up and there's no particular issues and niggling things that are going to cause me to clean this up, put this back in the packet, take it back to the bike shop and tell them that we've ordered the wrong one. We did look up the part on the microfiche, and this was correct on the diagram. However, the part number for this had been superseded, and so it's a new part number. So maybe it's a newly designed piece, I don't know, but I guess we'll find out when I put it onto the motorbike. Yeah, hang on for that. Just as expected, it does not fit. That is a shame. So you can see all this thread hanging out here. Now that shaft in there is the bit that
hold this entire assembly together, and that probably has a turn of thread on there, not much more. So I'm gonna have to pull the whole thing apart again. This hasn't worked out or whatsoever. Good news everyone, I got it to fit and it seems to be working all right. I'm going to take it for a test ride to make sure though. Just a quick one around the block. I haven't put the split pin in yet. I'll do that next before I go. So what I found was, because the old housing is flat instead of raised like the new one, there's this giant thick washer here that's about 3-4 mil high. And there was also a nut that went around this. So what happened is I took those off the new one because I put them like for like, and they fit. So now everything's adjusted. I've got it so the brake lever or the brake pedal is nice. I'll remove that plastic in a second, don't worry about that. And we're just going to go for a little test ride and see what happens. Fingers crossed. All right, all assembled, taking it for a test run, filled up some petrol for tomorrow, so full tank ready to go. And everything is okay. I got back and I adjusted this adjustment nut right here a little bit more, just to give the brake a little bit more, well, less free play on the lever. So the brake still turns freely, but there's just a tiny bit of drag, and then I backed it off a half a turn. So all is well there. That was a fun adventure, but everything seems to be lined up and okay once I figured out that the washer and all that stuff doesn't belong on this new brake setup. Obviously Royal Enfield has really tightened down on the amount of working and moving parts on this rear drum brake. I guess they wouldn't even bother with it anymore because the newer models have discs on the rear anyway and ABS, so whatever. But anyway, hope that's been helpful. It's not a step-by-step instruction thing, but just more of a video just to show you what it's like rebuilding a rear drum brake on a Royal Enfield. Sad to see that the mechanism here has changed, where they used to use the two nuts that went on the top and bottom here. That helped self-center the brake. That's no longer relevant on this one, on this plate. And as such, I guess I'll see what the wear looks like in a few thousand kilometers when I pull it all apart, and I'll check the shoes and see what they look like. Let's go over to the front and let's have a look and see what the front disc looks like now that I've put 10-15 kilometers on the front and given it a few good hard squeezes and normal braking. So here we are on the front. You can actually see the brake pad contacts a couple of mil in from the outside and from the inside as well, so it's not making full contact. I don't know whether that's just because of the size of the pads or they'll likely eventually bed in, but you can see the cross hatching is starting to disappear. That'll be a few hundred Ks before it's completely gone, but the braking is significantly better, and also there's no more pulsing anymore, so that's fantastic news as well. Thanks for watching everyone. Hope that's been somewhat educational and probably more entertaining than anything else. Have a good one.